5 years. And I saw her for about 2 weeks for the last 3 of those years. A year. Because I was at college and she wasn't. Strange dating mine, right? The distance dating. I was very loyal. My idea was I'm going to date the right person, and eventually I asked God, and God basically didn't say she was the right one. I told her I'd get engaged as soon as I'd hear from him that she's the right one, and it never happened. And after 5 years, I figured out it's not going to happen. Aha! God's hinting at me, and I should understand. No, anyway, maybe he has some feminine. No, anyway. So it wasn't actually. It was pretty blatant, right? After 5 years of praying, hello. And we broke up on really good terms, and she got married not too long afterwards. My wife had the opposite strategy. So you date everybody, just really shallow. Maybe that's too much. You date quite a few guys, but you don't go very far at all with them, kind of an idea. These are both fine strategies, I think. The bad strategy would be that you go too far, especially with a lot of guys or girls. But both strategies, I'm not trying to push one on you. I think that being really loyal, trying to figure out if it's the right person, and then if they're not, then you have to move on that. In any case, I graduated from the academy, and I didn't have a girlfriend, and it didn't bother me. A lot of people around here seem to be pretty bothered when they graduate and they don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend yet. And I don't think you have to worry about it. People are getting married actually in their 25, 26, 27 is becoming the average. I wouldn't suggest that if you can help it, but it's normal. I remember, though, when I was 22 years old, I was a lieutenant in the Air Force, and I was also a college career pastor at our church. And I was praying, and I asked God, why did Adam need Eve in the first place? I mean, after all, he had the fullness of God. He had the relationship with God in the Garden of Eden. He walked with God every day. I mean, why was he lonely? You see what I'm getting at? That doesn't make much sense. And God answered me that I was asking the wrong question, which he often does when I'm asking a good one. So he said, that's the wrong question. So I had to think about that for another day or two, and I got, oh, wait a minute. The real question isn't why Adam needed Eve, but why God wanted Adam. I mean, God had the fullness of himself. He's a Trinity, right? He has the fullness of his own community. So why would he ever need Adam, or even one Adam? And how can God have a need? This is a much deeper question. And then I got the answer to it. I felt like God was saying that he loved so much, he had to have an object to give it to. That unlike almost everything else in the world, maybe everything in the world, love is something that is multiplied when it's given away. Love is made complete only when it's given away. So all the other characteristics of the universe, when you give something away, you lose. But when it comes to love, when you give it away, you gain. And God has so much love for you that he made you. He had so much love to give that he made you. And this answered my first question as well. I believe Adam was made in the image of God, that he had so much love, he had to have a recipient of that love. That Eve was made to reflect that love and to generate that love back into the circle, and that love is one of these really strange forces in the universe that actually grows in force and power when it's reflected, rather than diminishing. So, anyway, I think he wanted somebody to love. We should marry, I believe, what this really taught me is that we are ready to marry. When you're ready to marry, it's when you're perfectly happy being single. You see, if you have a hole in your life, if you have this place that is lonely, and then the other person has a place that's lonely, and you get together to kind of try to fill each other's loneliness, you're actually getting together in part to take. But if you're a whole person on your own, if you're completely satisfied with God and God alone, if you've come to the place that says, I could do this forever if that's the will of God, then when you come together, all you have is something to give. The other person would be crazy not to love you, since all you have to do is give. You don't have any taking that's needed. And two people who are whole can completely give. But two people who have holes in them, they have parts that they have to take. That make sense? So your goal when you're single in part is to be so full of love that you only have love to give. You do realize loving is stupid, right? Loving means putting somebody else ahead of yourself. Doesn't it? Loving means somebody else's needs are more important than yours. It's irrational. It's totally the worst possible intellectually idea that you could come up with. Why do you want it so bad? Because somehow there's a payoff, I guess. Somehow God has created the universe to give a payoff to this thing called love, which is putting somebody else in front of yourselves. All right. So you're not really ready to marry until you're satisfied with God's love for yourself. I just have a few questions for you, and I'm not even going to answer them. I want you to answer them for yourselves. The first one is, are you satisfied being single? Are you satisfied with God's love and with the love that's in your life? Could you be single forever? If God came to you and said, I want you to promise me that you'll stay single, could you do it? Could you even pray to God and say, God, if one more person will come to Christ, I'll be single for life, if that's what it takes? So it's a pretty serious question. It's another one, how much love do you have to give? If you had a 1 to 10, with 10 being God and 1 being Hitler, I don't know. It's easy to rip on Hitler, right? So never go wrong there. How much love do you have to give? I hope you guys are at least above the 1. So, how would you learn to love? How can you become better at it? Focus on the family makes it so that Christians look like they're good at relationships. But I think we should be the best at love. The whole world should go, you know what? All the movies we're making and everything, they're nothing. They pale in contrast to these Christian people who really know what this love thing is. That's why we have a religion today. The agapeo that Christians showed. Rome had various diseases, and all the rich people ran away, all the people in government ran away, and the Christians stayed, got sick, and died with the sick, and cared for that city and cared it through issues. And people started going, you know what? Christians would rather love me when I'm sick and die with me than abandon me and just save their own lives. This is a religion that's worth living. That's one of the reasons why Christianity spread. So, how do you learn to love? And another question I have for you to ask yourself is, does love for yourself possibly subtract from your love for others? Could it be that the more you love yourself, the less you have love for others? And could that possibly give you hints to the earlier question there? All right, just questions on your own. I want to tell you a story. Because the girls like this and the guys like, eh. So, how did I get engaged? First of all, this is my wife in front, in case you didn't know. You want to stand up and wave? She does. That's amazing. Okay, hey. Yeah, you should probably give her a hand just because she married me, and she needs the encouragement. So no, I went to my. I knew I was going to get married the first time I saw her. So this is different than most people, I suppose. I was teaching a Bible study. She walked into the Bible study. God said, "That's the one for you." I said, "That's nice to know, God, but don't let her distract me from teaching tonight." Now, after the Bible study, I had to figure out, how do I meet and fall in love with the woman I know I'm going to marry? So I decided that, well, I'm going to create a plan. So I went to my youth group leaders, and a lot of them were women, and I said, I need you to always invite Rebecca to all the next things that are going on, because we're all about building our numbers here. So, matter of fact, a few weeks in, Rebecca's getting suspicious. She's like, he always sits by me at the games and stuff. She turned to one of my youth group leaders, my college career leaders, and she goes, does Peter like me? Or is this, and this lady in Masaka goes, no, he's like that with everybody. He just likes having more numbers in his group. So, so I guess I was being subtle. So anyway, that was probably the first and last time. So anyway, I knew I was going to marry her. Eventually, God told her she was going to marry me, and her answer to God was, prove it. So mine was, I'll make that happen. And hers was, she decided she wasn't going to marry anyone in the military, in the police, or in the fire business, and I was in the military. So she didn't think that was quite, anyway, God proved it, I guess. But I knew we were going to get married. She knew we were going to get married, but I wanted to get engaged in a way that was a surprise. So I told her, you know what we're going to do? If it's okay with you, we'll go on a series of really expensive dates. A whole series of really expensive dates, and on one of these, I'll pop the question. But I don't want you to know which one. So if we go on a really expensive date and I don't ask you, it's not because I don't love you anymore. Is it okay if we go on a series of really expensive dates? She said yes. Good plan. Now I knew that if you did it on the first date, it'd be more surprising. And it'd be cheaper. So of course, I went down and asked her parents if I could marry her, etc. We went over to my parents' house actually for the weekend, and it was about 2 hours away from Seattle. And I had collaborated with her mom. We were supposed to do something with her parents on that Monday. It was a 3-day weekend. And her mom was supposed to call and give an excuse why they couldn't do it, and then I was going to take her on this date. But her mom ended up, her excuse wasn't what I said at all, and all of a sudden it sounds like her whole family's dying, and and it's not really the right mood I was looking for on Sunday night before the Monday date. And she's like, I need to go and save my family. And it's just like, no. Eventually though, we finally convinced her, no, she doesn't have to go save her family. And could we, I said, we'll just go on a really nice date. And then I did what's very important for you guys to realize. I told her what to wear. So you can be spontaneous and you can not tell her what's going on, but you still have to tell her what to wear. So I told her, you dress nice, I'll dress nice, we'll go on a nice date. So we drove the 2 hours and we drove into Seattle. She's thinking, hey, this is going to be fun. We went to the Space Needle. And then we went to the top of the Space Needle. And it turns once every hour around. And we had dinner. You have to get reservations there. So she's like, wow, he got reservations somehow and stuff. But she's wondering how I had time, because I just made this up like the Sunday night at my parents' house. And now it was Monday, so you wouldn't think I had time to do this kind of thing. All of a sudden, roses show up. A dozen roses show up, and they try to give it to her, and she's got, so no, I don't need that. She's thinking it's going to be really expensive, and this guy I know is cheap, so he's not going to be buying it. Anyway, but eventually she figures out, no, these roses were her. They're already bought. And there's a 2-page poem with it. How did that happen? Because she knows that I didn't take anything out of the car, and there's nothing there. So anyway, did I ask her? No, of course not. Our first kiss, by the way, was on the Empire State Building, and it was quite a few months, 6 months or so after we've been dating. And so we have this thing about kissing at the highest tower everywhere we go. My only improvement for you guys, by the way, is you should pick the lowest level so you can do it more often. But anyway, this worked well when we were in Europe, though, went up to castles and stuff. So I thought, the Empire State Building and the Seattle Space Needle, and she liked that one movie, Sleepless in Seattle, and its clone, You Got Mail. Anyway, and the rest of those clone movies. So anyway, so we're at the Space Needle. We go up to the top of the Space Needle, and there's really no one there, and we're looking over the CD, and I don't ask her there either. And then we go down, and we're supposed to be heading south towards Tacoma, but I take a wrong turn, and all of a sudden we're heading north, and she's nice and kind, and she's just telling me, well, you just missed, you're heading the wrong way, and you just missed the other exit. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to get over, and oh, that's tough. Anyway, so eventually I get off, and then I miss the on-ramp, and I'm trolling through Seattle, and she's like, hey, you know what? There is a really cool place right over there. There's a beach, and it overlooks the whole city of Seattle. You can see all the lights. I'm like, really? That's where I was going. Anyway, so help me get there. So she starts giving me directions. She takes one wrong turn. I take it, right? If she tells you where to go, you go. Anyway, we figure out how to get there. We get there. Usually she's right, by the way, direction-wise. I had this whole thing planned. She knew how to get there just by instinct. Anyway, we get there. We walk across the pier. It's really pretty. And then we walked into the sand, and then walked in, pulled up our pant legs and walked into the water and came out. And then I knelt down and I asked her if she'd marry me. And she kind of freaked out, so I had to ask her again. But that time I got a yes.